Hey y'all, welcome to part 2 of making custom grips for a Crosman Mark I vintage air pistol. It's a lovely pistol. I showed you in the first part. It's really nicely built, and I'm replicating these plastic grips. I'm going to show you the interiors of them nice and close. You can see they have a very complex interior shape. Where the webbing is will be solid wood. Obviously, where there's nothing, there will be nothing. There is only this little bit, not even 1/8 of an inch really, overlapping, about a 1/16 of an inch overlapping the frame. If you look at this, these cavities, right, see them? See the cavities, and the grips only overlap this frame just a smidge. There's just not much room for play here. There's no room for error. There's no room for screwing around. You can't make the grips much bigger this way because of the round over. Right? You can make them a touch bigger in the back, which I have. I've made my template slightly larger in the back, but it's got to be this shape in the front. You can see how it follows here. Okay. See the little relief for the safety. Right? See the relief that goes around the lug, which is an odd shape. It's an odd shape. You can see. It's just not a shape you can make with a router bit. Okay. But there are shapes I can make with a router bit. For instance, I can make this shape and I can make this shape. I can make the wood disappear with my router using the core box bit, 1 inch in diameter. So that's how I'm going to handle that. This, I can get the flat part with a mortising bit, but I cannot get these angles. That'll be hand chiseled. I can mortise for the safety, right? No problem. Can also mortise all the way around to make this flat. So I can make my landing, all with router bits. I can make that landing. I can make the part that goes in there 1/8 of an inch and fits in those pockets. I can make this 1 inch cylindrical cavity. I can make it end right there and have a rounded end. I can make this one come over, but it'll have a rounded end, but you'll never see it because it's under here. Right? And how I'm going to go about doing that. It's quite a complicated process, but it took me a while to really work it out in my head exactly how I want to do it. But this is how I'm going to start. This is my boss. It's got all my info on it. It's my story stick. Okay, it's got center lines, it's got screw holes, it's got profiles, it's got information. I'm going to cut a block of wood that's 2 inches thick and 3 1/4 inches wide and 5 inches long out of some select walnut. I'm going to affix this to it. I'm going to drill smaller than these holes. I'm going to use a bit that's this size to get the holes started. Then I'm going to center those. Then I'm going to use a smaller bit. I'm going to drill small holes all the way through that 2 inch thick block. Okay, then I can set this aside for a little while. I can use it to transfer marks. Okay, any marks I need to transfer, I can transfer them. Then I'm going to take that block of wood. I'm going to run it through my bandsaw or my table saw. I'm not sure which. Probably the table saw will give me the best results, but the bandsaw has the least waste, so it's half of one. One of them I'll be sanding forever, the other one I'll be wishing I had more wood. So, I've got my 2 blocks. One block is only going to be this thick. Okay, this is 7/16. I'm going to be shooting for a 1/2 inch plus whatever I can get away with. Maybe a 1/16. This is 1 3/16. From the thickest part here to here. I'm going to go for 1 1/4 inch plus whatever I can get it out of the process, maybe a 1/16. So I've cut the block of wood in half. Now I have a thin piece and I have a thick piece. And I know which way they go together. And the grain is going to flow right through them like it should in a beautiful way. I'm going to fix this template using little wood screws. These will be countersunk. We'll use little wood screws into the wood. Fix those, and what this does is it shields the wood from the mortising bit, which has a bearing. Okay, it's a top bearing hinge mortising bit. And so I can blaze around the edge of this, just follow that with my router, and it will leave behind a perfectly level flat surface. It's all the same level. I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch into this with my wood. So I'm going to take off 1/8 of an inch of wood all the way around. Okay. Then I'm going to attach this, and I'm going to take a 1/16 off of this to make this fit. Okay. I'm also at this point going to drop in here. Okay. So this is a little more, right? You can see how much that comes up. And I'll take this down to give me this level and the stopping point. The rest will have to be done with a chisel. And I'll flip it over and I'll do the other side, same way. Except I don't have to do anything for the safety here. This will be done with the drill press. I'll use a Forstner bit and I'll make a small small counterbore for that. Alright, so now I've still got a square block of wood, looks like this, and it's gotten routed all around so that basically, I want to show you what I mean here, that it would, imagine this is 1/8 of an inch instead of 3/8. You have a piece of wood sticking up like this, and you'll have some other little things on it. And that'll be a beautiful thing. Okay. At that point, I'll set up my router on my router table, which you can see is right over there. And I'll use the 1-inch core box bit. It's a round nose bit. It's 1 inch in diameter. It has a perfect 1-inch diameter as if it were a circle, but it's only a half a circle. Okay. And I'll jack that up to 3/8 of an inch. The reason I'm using 3/8 of an inch as the number is because that's what it is from here to here. If you were to bridge that and measure down, that's 3/8 of an inch. And then if you were to measure from here to here, that's 1/8 of an inch. That's how this is all working. And I will set up a fence on either side of my router bit in the desired location. This is the line that I want to center my router bit on. This is where I want to stop my router bit from proceeding. So as I introduce it to the router bit, I will have a stop fence, I'll have a side fence, and I'll have fingerboards so that I can introduce this piece and just take that round bit and just profile the wood. And that will leave the perfect desired cavity, even including this rounded end. It will not do this. That's what the mortising bit was for, and the chiseling. So at this point, I then will turn my attention to here once I've done both sides like that. Okay, so now I've inserted my piece, I've done both sides, so I have two pieces that are almost done. I need to do the same thing here. And the way I'm going to get it to follow the fence is I'll cut off the block now, following this angle, leaving just a little bit, a 1/16, and I will introduce it into the fence like this. And it'll have a stop, so it can only go so far, and then it will produce the desired concave that you see right there. That stops right there. Alright, and then I will be able to finally get close to producing a grip by cutting out this profile, okay, but leaving a 1/16. Go all the way around, cut all the way around this. Now my block starts to look like a grip. That's when I attach this, and I use a router bit, just like you saw in my router, which is a pattern bit, the bottom bearing, and I just go all the way around it. Now I have two big blocks that should fit really perfectly on this pistol if I did everything right. But before I start hand carving these profiles, I'm going to stabilize the piece. So I'm making two pairs of grips, so I'll have 4 pieces, and I will make a container just for them. And I'll put them in my vacuum chamber, and I'll pour cactus juice over top of them in the container until they are submerged, and I'll hold them down with weights, and I will turn on the vacuum pump for 24 hours, and it will completely impregnate these with a resin that can then be heat catalyzed in an oven. And I will bake them, and at that point I should have some rock hard pieces of walnut to work with. And why do I want to stabilize them? I'll tell you why. Because there's stuff like this that's going to want to break off when I'm forming it. Even if I'm just using a file, even if I'm just using a sanding block, it's so thin, and the grain is going to be running this way through the piece, right? And you know how it is with grain. That's where it wants to break, that way. It doesn't break this way, it breaks this way. So I want to get it rock hard, totally impregnated. Even though the wood's going to be this thick right here, this side is going to be exposed to the resin. It'll saturate in there a good 1/4 inch at least, and that'll help stabilize this whole upper ridge that I'm worried about. It's the same on both. This one's a little thicker, just a little bit thicker, tad. See? But still, before I start profiling this, and then there's really thin areas like this, and then there's this, which is only 1/8. This is 1/8 here. So I'm going to probably have more like 3/16 when I'm done. But the idea is to completely replicate these grips, this profile, everything about them except the checkering, because I don't do checkering. Okay. I could stipple them, but I don't think that's what my customer would want. I think she just wants beautiful, smooth wooden grips. So, we'll talk about that when we get there. At this point, I've explained the operation. I've told you how it's going to go down. I've told you how I'm going to accomplish the task. Now it's just up to me to actually pull it off. As you can see, I've been thinking about it quite a bit, and I've actually got quite a bit of time invested in those templates. I know they look like just a few small pieces, no big deal. But that's 8 hours right there, just in templates and in cogitating just to get to this point. So once my router bits and wood arrive, I will be able to proceed, and I will show you that in part 3. So stay tuned. Thanks for supporting Mountain Storm. You can contact me anytime you want it. RW_KEETON@yahoo.com, or you can message me here on YouTube or leave a comment on one of my videos, and I'll be glad to get a hold of you. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Leave a comment if you had something to say.